The war with Iran is coming to an end. The date for the cessation of hostilities is already set as American soldiers rebel and mass refuse to die for Israel, demanding an immediate termination of their contracts. We will reveal all the details. French generals are openly telling Washington where to go as Europe slams the door in Trump's face. It has begun. Russia is already attacking Lithuania, and intelligence gives the Baltics only 2 months before a full-scale invasion. The world is falling apart, but we will find the truth in this chaos. This is GIN News. We distill the truth from the noise. Let's begin. Does the White House know something we don't? Sensational information has leaked from the corridors of Washington and sources in Jerusalem. The end date of the war with Iran has already been officially set. But whether this is the date of a peace treaty signing or the moment of a nuclear apocalypse, the authorities are keeping it a closely guarded secret. Let's break everything down in order, because what we are seeing now does not look like the original plan at all. Operation Epic Fury, which was announced as a surgically precise strike for immediate regime change in Tehran, has suddenly turned into a tangled labyrinth. Did Trump even have a real plan? Or was this entire campaign an impulsive bluff that they are now trying to extinguish at any cost? The 48-hour ultimatum clock, which was supposed to end with a total blackout across all of Iran, has unexpectedly stopped. Donald Trump has once again performed his signature pivot and backed down. Instead of the promised devastating strikes on the largest power plants, the world witnessed a strange 5-day pause. The 47th president announced that negotiations with Tehran were incredibly productive. But is this truly a diplomatic success? Or a desperate attempt to hide a strategic failure now that aircraft carriers have found themselves within range of Iranian drone swarms? A real political drama unfolded in Memphis, where Trump effectively began assigning blame for the fact that a quick victory did not happen. His Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, was the one thrown under the bus. During a meeting with journalists, Trump directly pointed to him as the main initiator of this chaos. Trump stated exactly the following: "We were dealing with very difficult decisions, and Pete, you were the first one to step up and say, let's do it. I remember how you convinced me that we couldn't wait any longer. Now we see the consequences, and I hope you know how to end this." These words sound like an open attempt to throw his own secretary under the tank, preparing a scapegoat for a war that has turned into a dangerous trap. But it gets even more interesting. Attempting to save face, Trump began claiming that he is in dialogue with some extremely respected leader in Iran whom nobody knows, but who allegedly holds more real power than the Ayatollah. Don't forget, we liquidated the leadership of the first, second, and third phases, but now we are dealing with a person who is a true leader. It's hard to explain, but we are having a very successful dialogue, Trump asserts. While American intelligence is in a panic trying to understand who the president is talking to, Tehran officially calls these claims a delusion. Iranian media are openly mocking him. Trump simply invented an imaginary friend to justify his panicked retreat due to fear of our retaliation. Iran's reaction has become even harsher. An advisor to Ayatollah Khamenei, General Rezai, presented Washington with conditions that look more like an act of surrender: full compensation for all destruction, the immediate lifting of sanctions, and guarantees of non-interference. Furthermore, Tehran has moved to scorched water tactics. The IRGC officially warned, in the event of any strike, the entire Persian Gulf will be mined, not just the Strait of Hormuz, but every square meter of key trade routes. This would be a giant minefield where no tanker can pass without Tehran's permission. And to cement the effect, Iran released the animation Lord of the Straits, showing U.S. aircraft carriers sinking under drone attacks. And here we come to that very mysterious date where everything began, April 9th, 2026. This day has been identified as the final point for a complete settlement. Donald Trump has approximately 2 weeks left. This is the date that will either bring a major peace deal or become the beginning of the end for the global economy. Can Trump escape this trap by April 9th, or is this just the calm before the storm? Write in the comments, is this a victory for Trump or a shameful retreat? We read every one of your reviews. Friends, for me, it is even scary to imagine that the United States could lose a war to Iran despite having a colossal advantage in all means. This is a huge blow to America's reputation on the international stage, and it is seen by both enemies and allies alike. Although, after the foreign policy led by Trump, I don't even know if we have any true allies left. But, unfortunately, the bad news for Washington does not end there. While Trump draws arrows of offensives on maps, the soldiers themselves are beginning to refuse to fight. A shocking investigation by HuffPost has revealed the truth that the Pentagon tried to hide behind walls of censorship. As the U.S.-Israel war against Iran enters its fourth week, American military personnel from active units to reservists report a state of total disorientation and disillusionment. A direct quote from a veteran who now consults young officers sounds like a verdict. I am hearing the words from the mouths of service members. We do not want to die for Israel. We don't want to be political pawns. These are not just isolated complaints. Mike Priesner, director of the Center on Conscience and War, reports something the U.S. Army hasn't seen in decades. In March, the number of requests for conscientious objector status increased by 1,000%. Soldiers from the Army, Navy, and Marine Corps who were supposed to be sent to the front lines this weekend are en masse seeking legal ways to terminate their contracts. The situation on the ground is even bleaker. At Landstuhl Regional Medical Center in Germany, where the wounded are evacuated from the conflict zone, medical officers openly speak of failed planning and inadequate force protection. According to them, American bases in the Gulf, which were previously considered safe resorts, have turned into death zones. Iranian ballistic missiles and drones are methodically destroying infrastructure, from gyms to dormitories. 13 service members have already died, and more than 230 have been wounded. Military personnel say directly, we cannot fully protect even a single land base in this region. One of the main sources of anger among soldiers is the lack of a clear sense of this war. Military personnel feel they are being used as toys for an administration with an authoritarian agenda. Against the backdrop of Trump in Memphis trying to shift the blame onto Secretary of War Pete Hegseth, the soldiers see only political games. Reservists note, Hegseth stopped educational partnerships and development programs, leaving the Army with only one role, simply to fight without asking questions. But the soldiers are asking these questions. The breaking point for many was the strike on February 28th on a school in the Iranian town of Minab, which killed over 175 people, including dozens of schoolgirls. American military personnel no longer see a moral advantage in this campaign. We already mentioned the mysterious date, April 9th, 2026. Now it becomes clear why the White House is so desperately trying to close the issue by this day. Trump understands, if by April 9th the war does not end with a successful deal, the Army may simply stop following orders. This will not just be a defeat by Iran, it will be an internal collapse of the American military machine. What is this, the beginning of the end of the USA's era as a world leader, or will Trump find a way to quell the rebellion in his own barracks? When diplomacy ends, emotions begin. French General Richard did not hold back and expressed what is now being whispered in all the capitals of Europe. His direct quote, which has already circled the internet, Trump, go f*** yourself. The reason is the incredible cynicism of Washington. Just yesterday, Donald Trump was threatening allies with tariffs, demanding that Greenland be handed over to U.S. control. Operation Arctic Endurance pushed NATO to the brink of collapse, and Trump called Europeans useless while dreaming of Greenlandic minerals. But today, with Iran cutting off oil and gas prices in the states hitting records, Trump suddenly remembered his friends and is begging Europe to send a fleet.
Notamment les Britanniques, qu'il a dit, on s'en souviendra. Alors si vous me poussez, voilà, eh bien maintenant il a besoin de nous. Eh bien, qu'il aille se faire foutre, franchement.
The response from Kaja Kallas and Emmanuel Macron was harsh. This is not our war. We will not fix the chaos you created. Europe no longer wants to be the service staff for the ambitions of the 47th president. Trump has been left alone. But will Europe itself stand without the United States. While Trump struggles with his own soldiers and Iranian mines, another beast is preparing to pounce in the north. Intelligence indicates that preparations for a Russian invasion of Latvia, Lithuania, and Estonia have already reached the final stage. The Kremlin has a window of opportunity of 1 to 2 months. The scenario is painfully familiar. Russia has pulled out the playbook from 2014. While the regular army builds up forces near the borders, informational poison has already begun inside the Baltic states. On social networks, groups are mass appearing, calling for the autonomy of the Estonian city of Narva and the entire Ida-Virumaa region. They are already publishing fictional flags, anthems, and even plans for so-called militia. All of this is presented under the guise of protecting Russian identity. The Estonian police have already warned of criminal responsibility, but the flywheel of destabilization has been launched. However, the real shock was caused by the reaction in Latvia. Amidst the panic, the head of the country's security service, Normans Mesviets, instead of calming words, issued a phrase that instantly went viral and was chilling: "They will kill us all." And it seems these words are beginning to come true. Has the attack on the Baltic states already begun? Last night, an unknown drone attacked Lithuania. Video captured the moment of its fall, and at the crash site, an internal combustion engine was found. The most terrifying thing in this situation is that the Lithuanian army simply did not notice the flight of this object. This reveals catastrophic holes in the region's air defense system that the Kremlin can exploit at any moment. This is no longer about diplomatic niceties. This is fear of a real threat that could erase the borders of Europe as early as this spring. Will NATO wake up in time, or will the Baltics be left alone with the aggressor while Washington plays political poker? We are monitoring every movement of equipment on the border. This is GIN News. We distill the truth from the noise. Subscribe to know what tomorrow will bring.